again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Can't Wait. Sounds terrible. We hope you enjoyed your America 250 celebration. We are sponsored by Red Card Appeals. Got a red card? We got a guy. And by America 251, the do-over. That's Eleni, that's Natalie, that's Rachel, that's Patrick. I'm Dennis. Producer Grace is producing. And we have breaking news, folks. Gotta have the sounder. That makes it more official. So just earlier today, Chicago Tribune reporter Jake Sheridan, today being when we recorded this, but what is time anyway, but a flat circle. A Chicago cardiologist and medical whistleblower is entering the crowded race for mayor, promising to face the city's problems free of special interest connections and with a doctor's even hand. Dr. Lisa Nee announced Tuesday her run to lead the city. Jake calls it a long shot bid and says that she has an unusual resume. She also has an unusual launch. Her picture on the Chicago Tribune website is of her sitting between two enormous Rottweilers. So one of the most unique campaign rollouts I've ever seen. That could maybe be her security detail. Maybe a cost-saving move. She won't need the 100 police department officer staff of our current incumbent. Eleni, you pointed out this is not her first moment in the public arena.
Sure, well, I don't know if she'll appreciate it or not, but Dr. Nee initially made her debut in politics 10 years ago when she was actually one of the whistleblowers who reported a lot of, I'm going to call it malpractice happening at the IDVA, the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs, that was then run, well, when she was reporting it, these issues were happening under who is now one of our current U.S. senators, Tammy Duckworth. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up coming into play in this quote unquote race that she's in for mayor, if she makes it far enough down the line. But it is interesting to see all these names coming out of the woodworks and all trying to get to the front of the line.
Well, good luck to her and to anybody that gets in the way of her and her Rottweilers. I'd be very intimidated if I was some of those other candidates. Well, while we were so busy getting ready to celebrate the 4th and our concern for Rachel's corgis, we failed to celebrate the 1st. July 1st in Illinois and Chicago is just always a special time because that's when a lot of new state, county, and city laws take effect. The Tribune a few days ago laid this out just in time for us to comply. So the Chicago minimum wage is going up on July 1, or has gone up, went up on July 1, $17.05 for most workers. So Patrick, you're getting a raise. There's the whole tip worker thing, Natalie, and I don't think we need to go through all of that again, but they're getting a raise too, just not as much as the non-tipped workers. The Tribune also reported on a bunch of new state laws from Springfield, and this will take a minute, so hopefully our many viewers and listeners will bear with us. So there's a fairly large fee on social media platforms. There's a fairly hefty tax on cryptocurrency. And for those of us trying to run businesses, you still can get a write-off for net operating loss, and they think that's going to get them $300 million, just that alone. So, Natalie, imagine if the state could deduct its losses.
We'd be back in the black, right?
The state is also going to continue taxing online tobacco retailers. There was a special tweak on remote tobacco retailers that sell cigars and pipe tobacco and alternative nicotine products. So, Rachel, I've often thought long before we had so many vaping options that if the state, which purports to, tell everybody, smoking is bad for you, and we're going to ban smoking in various public spaces, if people ever truly stopped smoking, the state would be in deep doo-doo.
I mean, that's for sure. That's for sure. I think it's interesting to look at the list of new taxes and new fees and new things because I think they did a pretty decent job of picking the ones that are really hard to pick on, right? Picking the ones that are really hard for opponents, for Republicans to make hay over because most people either will never directly feel them or if they hear about them are like, yeah, that's probably a thing that should be taxed more. But you missed my favorite new law, which is one that when I initially heard it was proposed, I thought this is ridiculous, but I ultimately kind of came around when I looked at the research on it. They changed the driver's testing requirements for seniors.
It's got
So
to get to
after
that.
over a certain age, you don't have to go back in and do it. And I remember when that was introduced, looking at that, being like, that's ridiculous. Those people have to have more accidents than anyone. But they did a study, and the study showed the opposite, that they were actually some of the safest drivers on the road. So it's like one of those things that like sounds ridiculous on its face, but when you do the research, is actually pretty good public policy. So that's kind of nice
That's
to see.
because they're driving about 37 mile an hour in the
Right.
left lane on the
Right.
Edens. That's
They're
why.
probably also just driving to like the grocery store and back, right? I mean, they're not commuting to work or going on long road trips, right? But
Dennis, think
Patrick, in
about the
addition
time
to
you'll save by not
absolutely.
having to study up for your new driver's license.
oh, bleeding. Patrick, they're also big voters.
Well, there's that, but buried in the law is the ability to snitch. The family can now tattle to the Secretary of State and have the person's license revoked. So, a craven political strategist would say they gave the seniors the headline, which is, hey, fewer testing, and they're failing to tell them, but your kids are snitching on you and your license. So, we'll
Snitches
see.
get ditches, kids. Half the Lenny, half of state policymakers may be on Wegovy and Ozempic, but we have a sales tax increase on candy pop and shampoo. The plan lawmakers approved also adopted uh, a way to divert that money that currently helps fund capital construction into the operating budget. So you shoppers won't see higher taxes at the checkout, but the money goes to a different place. Without that diversion, the state would have to find money elsewhere in the budget, according to the governor. It's your lucky year, taxpayers, if you are worried about rising gas prices. They paused the gas tax increase. There's another election year, always fun election year ploy, the back to school sales tax holiday. That's probably going to cost the state about 10 million, according to the Tribune. We started a new agency in state government, in case you weren't paying attention, the Department of Early Childhood. And in both probably good policy, but also great politics, if you're, say, talking about throwing your hat into a presidential ring, college students will be eligible for in-state tuition at public universities regardless of their immigration status if they attended an Illinois high school for at least 2 years and either graduated or earned a GED. Patrick, for those of you keeping track, the Illinois Department of Corrections will begin collecting and publishing on its website each year reports on contraband confiscated from its state prisons. So that'd be good to download into an Excel, maybe load that into Claude.
You wonder if that's going to like find its way into the union negotiations. Which prisons have the highest contraband seizure rate going forward, or the location of Wally's next to prisons. We could see what type of contraband pipelines there are.
Could also be an employee incentive. Like if you seize the most shanks, you get the employee of the month parking space.
That would be. I'd be grateful when I had co-sponsored that legislation. Thanks for spaces.
Eleni, this is going to kill some jobs. This recent Illinois budget, because Illinois lion tamers will be out of work, even though the circus is always in town. A earlier law had prohibited the use of endangered elephants. Now it's been expanded to cover all elephant species, as well as big cats, primates, and bears. They can no longer be used in traveling shows. The one exclusion was Amur leopards. I guess the leopard lobby carved something out. The law exempts animal performances at permanent facilities licensed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Wild animals are not trick machines, said Democratic State Senator Linda Holmes of Aurora, who is stepping down, so she gets another legislative win on her way out the door. She earlier had led, along with a couple of other Senate Democrats a few years ago, a ban on pet stores. So you can't buy a puppy or a kitty from the pet stores, but they had some horror stories that helped them pass that legislation. And Eleni, the best news of all for you, you can get a roadie. Cocktails to go have been made permanent. Illinois bars and restaurants will permanently be allowed to sell cocktails to go for curbside pickup and delivery under a law that makes a temporary measure permanent. It also made it easier to become a small craft distiller and lowered some bonding requirements. So there's some good news in the new package of state laws, but Natalie, we have some more bad news, especially for Patrick. The Illinois Toll Highway Authority intends to raise rates from an average of 7 cents a mile to 11 cents a mile, according to the Daily Herald, Chicago Tribune Daily Herald. The tollway would also impose increases based on the Consumer Price Index every 2 years, starting in 2029. And so the story said, quote, if approved, a commuter who drives on I-88 from Naperville to work downtown and back 50 weeks a year, they would be charged about $600 next year. That's an increase from the $375 that Patrick pays a year up until this point. So we're not going to be seeing Patrick downtown. And I'm not sure if that sounds terrible or sounds awesome. I think we just let that sit there.
I will point out, I would like to note that I was given a raise earlier in the show, but it was just completely negated. My $300 a year raise in the minimum wage has been confiscated by the Illinois Tollway. So
thanks, Tollway.
Illinois get taketh.
Even just your driving, you've been given and had some taken, right? They suspend the gas tax, but then they hike what you're paying in tolls. So, really, you're still coming out behind.
The man always wins. Patrick will remember that my late great father spent his retirement years sending on average of one letter a week to various Chicago news outlets, letters to the editor complaining about why the tollway still exists, because he was told it was supposed to be free sometime like in 1983. So maybe that's bringing him some joy, or he's spinning in his grave. I don't know. In other tollway news,
I know he's tuned into this pod weekly, Dean.
We're haunting him. There's also some new expenditures on the agenda for the tollway to do some study and preliminary design for future improvements at I-294 and I-90 interchange near Rosemont and O'Hare. The price tag on that study and preliminary design, $240 million. That's a lot of trips, Patrick. Yeah, it's like they better count on Patrick making a lot of trips, and all of his kinfolk. The answer that the tollway gave the Chicago Tribune, Daily Herald, Chicago Tribune, is because it is a critical interstate to interstate connection similar to other complex interchanges on our system, such as 294, I-88, I-290. The current I-294, I-90 flyover ramp bridges were originally built in the 1950s with the original construction of the tollways, and while they have been repaired over the years, they have yet to be replaced. So they got to do some studying, and then after they do that studying, they're going to create a total gridlock situation for anybody trying to get to and from O'Hare. So we have that to
I think Eleni
look
just
forward
moved
to.
the gridlock from her neighborhood. She just willed it into existence on the tollway. She's like,
Just
haha,
pushed
people.
down the road.
It's really bad. Really bad.
Melania's not going anywhere anytime soon. No place fast. That's for sure.
That's for sure.
So one other big story caught my eye, Team Terrible. On one of Patrick's rare visits to Chicago, before he had to pay such usurious fees to the tollway, we were driving around in circles, avoiding various road closures and errant Uber drivers. And we saw a creature taking up space in front of City Hall, Scabby the Rat. So I noticed just a few days ago that the Chicago Tribune, Talia Soglin, had a story headlined Chicago Port Labor Strife Has Political Implications for the Mayor. So it's not unusual for the mayor to do a photo op or have a press release with union leaders. In this case, stevedores. I've been accused of being a stevedore, but I think for me that was intended as an insult. But in Chicago, these are tough, strong men and women who work on the docks. And they work at the Port Authority on the southeast side on the Calumet River. And that's a key port for our region. It's also a place where there is a labor fight. Now, I was not aware that we privatized that port, and there's a company called QSL America, which was, as I recall, Patrick, that was on Scabby the Rat's sign.
You committed
So
to a deep
Q-
dive on journalism on that rat. You promised me you would get to the bottom of the rat,
And I did.
You have delivered.
QSL workers are members of Operating Engineers 150. Those guys went on strike last year. They're a no messing around union, in my experience. But some stevedores are still working because QSL, after the local 150 went on strike, they recognized the International Longshoremen's Association as their dock workers union of choice. So they did a divide and conquer move. QSL says the workers made their choice. And QSL gave those workers up to $15 an hour raise. Local 150 says their rival union brothers and sisters who are part of the longshoremen's are actually scabs, hence Scabby the Rat hanging out on LaSalle Street. Did you catch all that, folks? There's a lot. The mayor, just to make this a little bit more interesting, met with the longshoremen's union workers and had a photo op. And that's unusual because the strike by the 150 workers is going on, and these guys are crossing that with their trick play. And the local 150 has accused the mayor of hypocrisy. Now, nothing is straightforward in Chicago. So, digging even further, Patrick, Local 150 backed Paul Vallis, the Palos Heights resident who ran for mayor of Chicago, and they have backed frequently shirtless potential mayoral candidate and current Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias. In fact, they've blown the caps for Alexi with a couple $1 million in donations to support him, Natalie. So the Chicago Fed backs Local 150, and the mayor's doing photo ops with the longshoremen.
I don't even know where to go with that. I'm still stuck on stevedore. What? I didn't know what that word was.
It's not just an insult at me. Those are the people that work at the ports, and they're big
Thanks for all the
backers.
goods and services. Appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's quite a mess.
we wouldn't get all those Amazon orders without them. And the mayor is picking sides. Did you like that Palos Heights reference, Lenny?
Yeah, it was great. A plus.
All right. Well, it seems like it's enough of my rambling. There's been a lot of didactic reading of the news to all of you, but you're now going to exceed expectations and surprise and delight with Sounds Terrible, Producer Grace. So I want to start first with Rachel because we were all very concerned about the corgis. And this may not be your Sounds Terrible, this may be your Sounds Wonderful, but tell us, how did the corgis do?
Sure, yeah, I have a separate Sounds Terrible I'd like to get to, but thanks to a combination of torrential downpours dampening people's actual use of fireworks and the doggy Xanax. I think I said the wrong thing last week. It's doggy Xanax. Poppy did great. I have a photo I'll send you, Grace, of her just high as heck, just floating through the clouds, living her best little corgi life. So,
Can humans
Great.
take that?
Pharmaceutically aided corgis.
my pharmaceutically aided corgi, yeah. So she did great.
Did you try sampling it? Did you and your husband try sampling it
We
yourself?
decided against it, yeah. Dog medication, probably not recommended for humans. So
It's all
I
the
don't even know
same.
I don't even know where I would begin on the dosing.
It's all the same. You could try it. Go ahead.
She's
Said
I'm gonna
knowingly.
take some to Eleni. She can try it, and then she can give us an opinion.
Wash it down with the blood of Christ.
Exactly.
Um,
Sorry, that's my
Alrighty.
dog in the background.
Any
want
other
some for your
comments on
dog.
taking dog medicine while we got you and Rachel in this interchange?
No, I mean, I can speak from experience that dog Xanax is the same as human Xanax, so you're safe. Just check the dosage amount.
If you didn't know, now you know. Rachel, got any other Sounds Terrible news? Because that sounded
Yeah.
wonderful and floating on a cloud.
Yeah, so we have from time to time touched base on our Sounds Terrible on the latest virus going around. And we've been getting kind of increasingly dire warnings recently about a new one, cyclosporiasis. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't think it's appropriate to discuss all the symptoms in detail, but it's going through the Midwest, it's hitting people here in Illinois, and it causes what doctors are saying is explosive gastrointestinal symptoms. So both Sounds Terrible, and two, a reminder to everyone, wash your hands. It's the best thing you can do to not spread cyclosporiasis to your friends and family.
That was
Please.
there. And two, a reminder. Two is what Rachel's talking about there. For
Yes. A reminder, number two, a good reminder to wash your hands.
It's a series of public service announcements from Rachel's segment. Natalie, what's terrible for you?
I suddenly feel the need to go wash my hands, but for all of us who are concerned about flooding, the deep tunnel is almost full, like 95% full. And I was aware there was a deep tunnel. There was a Tribune story on this today. There's all these reservoirs around, specifically, I think, down in the southern suburbs, which are under threat. If the deep tunnel fills up to 100%, we'll be experiencing catastrophic floods. So that's a little concerning to me that we've had that much rain.
And I would imagine that if we don't get a handle on that and we're overcome by sewage, the cyclo whatever's disease is
Yeah.
going to get us.
Watch
It's
One
going
way
to
or the
spread
other.
like wildfire.
I think I read that reservoir is holding 7.2 billion gallons of water, but I'm just glad everyone is deeply concerned about data centers that use 5,000 gallons, because clearly we don't have any water anywhere in America right now.
I think you just found your new
Your new
campaign
source.
issue.
I think deep tunnel was the other big topic of my father. The deep tunnel is going to solve all the problems, and when's that boondoggle going to get done? And I think deep tunnel and the lottery was supposed to be paying for fill in the blank. Those are popular topics in the set of folks that sits around the Hardee's, has a coffee in the morning. Eleni, what's terrible for you?
So we've talked on here about this podcast being like a psychic service of things that are said that it will eventually come to be in real life. This is more of like a karma sitch that occurred. So last week I was probably saying some really insensitive things about riding public transportation.
Yes.
I was saying, oh God, that sounds so terrible, riding public transportation in the heat. And so merely 24 hours after I said these things, I conveniently was in an Uber going to some event downtown, and my Uber caught on fire on the expressway.
And
Right
you
at
have
the
a
jump.
photo that you
I
can
do.
share of
Yeah,
this.
Grace, I'm sure you'll pop that up there of me on the side of the Kennedy. Uh, just embracing. It was like 98 degrees. And one thing to note is that, and I've shared this with several elected official friends to fix, is that you can't get an Uber on the side of the highway. That's like not a thing. So when you
Generally
put
frowned upon.
So when you put your address, like, hey, I'm here, it gives you an address of somewhere not on the expressway. So that was like karma coming back at me for trashing public transit. So as some people know, I started a campaign last year. It was hashtag done driving. And so now that's been canceled and it is hashtag done Ubering. And I'm back to driving and behind the wheel. So pray for everybody. And I also want to close with for everyone to know that that was not my first car fire. So that's
Someone
my
with that kind of rage should have multiple car fires in her belt.
Yep, not my first car fire.
I was actually lucky to kind of experience this in real time with Eleni. I had just gotten off the phone with her when she was getting into the Uber, and then I was running a quick errand with my sister-in-law in the car. And Eleni calls, and I'm like, better answer it. I don't know what's going on. So it's on speakerphone, and Eleni is just talking about being on the side of the Kennedy. And the Uber is on fire, and my sister-in-law is like, what is happening here? And asking me if she can call an Uber on the side of the Kennedy. And I said, I don't think so. Can you get to the next exit? So,
Yeah.
and then I had to check in later, like, hey, are you still on the side of the Kennedy, or do I need to come get you?
I could swing by. Now that I've run my errands,
Yeah.
I can swing
Critical.
by.
Yeah,
She was
basically.
getting the doggy Xanax.
Yeah. I could have used that in that moment.
Had you been on the tollway, that ever helpful service you pay for? Remember how the tollway, though, you can ride in those. I'm sure they would have driven you to the side of a local road and dropped you off had you been paying that 7 cents per mile toll.
You're right.
They could have dropped you at least.
Are they the
mentioned
Minutemen or is that
Obama,
IDOT?
So why are you driving?
Exactly.
Should have
Hashtag
been
done
a Waymo.
driving. Hashtag done driving.
Hashtag not my first car fire.
Well, top that one, Patrick. Are you going to bring us a sesquicentennial, bicentennial, 50 moment?
Mine is not about anyone who has perished with their best friend this week, but I have been unsuccessful in my candidate recruitment for the Republican Secretary of State. This fine plant right here in my rental office down here has declined the opportunity to run after assessing the race and its vulnerability. So I will continue to look for office plants willing to go up. As you mentioned earlier in the pod, the guy's caps have been busted, so it is very difficult to recruit quality candidates to run for office these days. I'm not saying a lot of people are making mistakes in their vetting of candidates. I'm just saying I'm going the extra mile. I don't think this person was really in it, and the New York Times can't discredit this this plant either. So
I think you should name the plant Graham Plantner.
Oh,
Wow.
Anyway, here's my sounds terrible, folks. And this is a point of pride, a point of personal privilege, according to the Associated Press. A former economic development official in the eastern Chinese city of Nanjing was sentenced Monday for taking bribes. He took 2.2 billion yuan. Yuan, potato. We've heard for years about the threat of China taking our intellectual property, stealing our algorithms, indoctrinating us with clever dances on the TikTok. Now they're taking away Chicago's precious title as the most corrupt city because 2.2 billion yen is worth 325 million in dollars. And he did this consistently over 3 decades. He's like, sit down, Speaker Madigan, hold my Sing Tao. This is terrible. This naked aggression cannot stand. Now, there is good news. There is a deterrent effect. This economic development official is not going to be with us long because the Chinese courts sentenced him to death. So that is also terrible. So there's lots of terribleness in China vis-a-vis our title as the most corrupt government in the history of governments. And we're going to reclaim that title as soon as that guy gets the chair. Hey, that's terrible. If you're looking for terrible, you've come to the right place. I'm Dennis. For Natalie, Rachel, Eleni, Patrick, producer Grace, anyone else who contributed to this show, and our CBS Sounder. Thanks for watching another edition of Can't Wait Sounds Terrible. See you next week.